Right, let's get on with it because there's a lot to talk about in this new printer, and yes, Elegoo have changed the game here, quite significantly too. As I reflect on many of the videos I've put out in this last year, I'm honestly glad this one has given me the opportunity to be a lot more positive. The Saturn 4 Ultra has impressed me right off the bat. This is one of the biggest and most impressive positive improvements we've seen in consumer resin printing since Uniformation gave us a printer with an inbuilt heater. And whilst I'm predicting that this will be the most commonly purchased printer amongst the masses in 2024, there are some elements which I think fairly make me go, oh, come on Elegoo, this is common sense. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? If it's the latter, do you think I'm just being petty? But above all, do you think I'm Ross and this is Fohammer Videos? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to try to churn through this as fast as I can. If you want more detail, let me know and I'll make a longer follow-up video. I kind of plan to make one anyway. Let me get started by answering two of your burning questions. 1, no, the tilting mechanism is not just a gimmick. And 2, yes, this is more than worth your consideration as your next printer. First up, the style. The technical stripes are back on the lid, a design element that was born of the Neptune series and made its way to the Mars series, but not the Saturns for some reason. Though, the look of any machine has little to do with its performance. This one has already been quite divisive amongst the comments on preview posts. I honestly could care less about how a printer looks to the most part. It's not the ugliest machine I've ever seen. This is fine to me. The lid is now up and over, but doesn't hold itself in place at low angles like some other brands with similar designs. Not that I can imagine you'd ever need to hold it this low, but I know people will be looking for every hair they can split. But I'm sure we can all agree, having an up and over lid mechanism makes it so much easier to get access to your prints. Instead of having to lift off the whole lid and then find somewhere to put it, you can easily open this one-handed using just your little finger. Please be aware though that whilst you can see the printer's physical dimensions online, this is only when it's closed. You'll actually need about 51 to 52 centimeters depth and about 76 to 78 centimeters height to fit this in a desk or a rack with the lid fully open. You'll be happy to know though, if you are looking at this printer for a print farm, then you can easily remove the lid with a few screws on the inside. The housing is mostly plastic with a mostly metal base, except for the front fascia, which is also plastic. There is a decent seal around the whole upper lid, which is actually better than other recent printers I've seen with a heater inside them. This has no heater. The heater is a separate purchase, but I'll talk more about heating later. Now is about the specs of what you get in the box. Looking inside, the heart of the machine is a claimed 12K display with a resolution of 11520 by 5120 pixels. So it's not actually 12K, not on the Y-axis anyway. And please don't go thinking that this is somehow lesser than a 14K printer in terms of print quality, because it's not at all. If you already know this, please help to kindly spread the word to those who may be new and unaware. If you are new to printing, I'm sorry, I'm not going over this again here. I've made a separate video called 12K printers are irrelevant, which explains all this so that I don't have to keep explaining it in every video, so please watch that if you need more info. Assuming you've watched that, then the key thing to know is that the AVC on this printer is 24 microns, which is obviously identical to last generation's printers. But I'll come back to print quality later. For now, we're going through the specs. Now the screen size, and therefore the print area, is also identical to what we had in the 12K generation, which includes the Saturn 3 and the Saturn 3 Ultra, and that space is pretty much 219 by 123 millimeters. However, when compared to the Saturn 3 and 3 Ultra, with a build height of 220mm, this machine has actually lost 30mm and 40mm respectively versus those earlier models. And unfortunately, there's no sign of a screen protector. If there is one, it's under the tape frame, which is the last place you'd want a screen protector because it makes them harder to change. But since there's also no mention of one on the website, it seems to be the case that this machine does not have one, which is disappointing. The resin vat is a deeper design than what we've had previously, but this doesn't seem to be to allow more resin. It's because the tilting vat needs extra depth so that it doesn't overflow and spill. And finally, they released a vat with extruded spouts in opposing corners, but these are such odd shapes. It's not exactly what I'd expect for a good pour. But if we can praise Elegoo for one thing, well, we can praise them for a lot here, but let's praise them for listening to the community. We won. ACF is dead. Long live PFA. That's right, gone is the easier peeling but slightly detail reducing ACF film in both Saturn 4 printers. Elegoo are sticking with crystal clear release films, which maintains the high details on your models. Hurrah! But they are keeping the speed up with the tilting VAT module. Again, I'm going to come to that. Let's just keep going through the main bits. But speaking of good stuff, the build plate surface is really, really good, and that has the same laser etch style they adopted in the Saturn III and Mars 4 series, and the plate attaches to the Z-arm with a clamp. It's only a tiny thing, but I strongly prefer this to the old big black knob. However, I do feel compelled to nitpick a couple of things in this design. One is that Elegoo says this is auto leveling. It's not auto leveling, it's auto zeroing, but nothing in the mechanics will align the screen parallel to the plate or vice versa and hold it there. There's just springs in the plate which can compress as the plate presses against the screen. But all the other brands are doing the same thing and calling it self-leveling, so what choice does Elegoo have? I just want to make sure you understand what this actually means. Another quirk is one that people immediately spotted online from photos alone. And yes, because there's a big gap between the print plate and the upper frame of the plate, you do get resin in here, which, well, it's a bit harder to scrape out before transferring the whole bed to a cleaning area. So yeah, welcome to DripFest 2024. But I suppose on the plus side, Elegoo does give us a bib with this printer, and I don't care what Uncle Jesse says. Sure, you can call this a drip tray, but if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, yeah, this printer has a bib. And the final issue that I've found with this is, well, it's the tapered shape at the top of the bed where you hold it and where it connects to the Z-arm. This doesn't have much grip. Now, it's not happened yet, but I'm constantly worried I'm going to drop this tray and my models onto the screen. And I just feel this could have easily been designed a little better. So that's just a note for next time, Elegoo. Now on the mechanics side, Elegoo has gone back to a lead screw, where the previous Saturn Ultra had a ball screw promoting smoother motion. So in that small regard, this could seem a bit of a downgrade. But honestly, since the build plate only moves upwards through the printing process rather than up and down, does this even matter? Honestly, probably not, no. I think this is a smart, cost-efficient design choice. Though one thing that stuck out like a sore thumb is that this is the first Elegoo printer I've had which has no carbon filter, something which has become a staple in Elegoo's lineup. Though, if you check the website under the accessories, you can buy the rechargeable battery-powered ones, but I'll be honest, I missed the USB ones that came on when a print started. But they do, however, still have the vent hole for a connection to something like a Mars Mate, or alternatively a good extraction system which vents fumes outside. For operating the machine, let's take a look at the UI. Now, despite it being in portrait orientation, the UI is pretty good and a much deserved stylistic upgrade from previous generations of Elegoo printers, bar the Saturn III, which was also great. The only issue I see people having is the keyboard when typing in your Wi-Fi password. It's very small, but the only time I used that keyboard was when typing in my Wi-Fi password. Once. Now, as many of you expect, I have a pre-release version of the printer, which means I did get some localization errors that hopefully will be resolved before you get them. But these were small things, like it says tool on the front screen instead of tools, or when it detects a printing error like not enough resin, your continue option reads mandatory printing instead of something more like continue anyway or ignore. The funny one that I can't take credit for was pointed out to me by Kirioth, and he noted that after performing a self-test, the retest button at the bottom says refresh. Now, as a functional display, during printing, this screen starts with a lot of useful info, but all of this is way too small to see without being right up close to the machine. And after a few minutes, this times out to display a large progress wheel throughout the print, but the text here, like remaining time, is still way too small. Throughout the print, you can adjust some exposure settings, which is a nice to have feature when you just need to tweak a print's exposure values without having to give it a full reslice. But what's really great is the ability to test multiple layer exposure times at once. For dialing in new resins, this saves so much time, so long as you can figure out how to use it. So here you go. Just get any model you want and put one in each of the four corners of the build plate in the slicer software. Now, if the model crosses the halfway point on either the horizontal or vertical axes, this won't work. In the settings, choose your desired layer height and slice it. You don't need to set the time because we're going to do that in a minute. On the printer, go to the Tools section and swipe across, then choose Resin Calibration. Press the plus to import the model with your 4 models, one in each corner, then choose the exposure times on the screen for each quadrant and press the Start button. The printer will then expose each model for your chosen amounts of time. When it's done, you have 4 separate exposure tests. And when I compare these test models to my control model, which I printed on its own with a set exposure time, the results match. So this does exactly what it's meant to, But Elegoo haven't done the best in explaining how it works, at least not to me, but again, I got a preview copy of the printer, so hopefully this is in the manual when you get yours. But once this was initially dialed in with half-second differences, I could then go back for a second pass and tighten up my exposure times even further to 1/10 of a second. Further still, 1/100th of a second if I wanted to. Overall, this is a good UI, but the orientation limits text size, which I think is too small, as I said. But right then, let's get to the fun stuff. Elegoo sent me standard resin, which is not going to show off the quality this machine's capable of, so I use some of Frozen's new Aqua Hyperfine because this is incredibly high detail. Now, print quality I can sum up very quickly thanks to the exposure test I commonly use to dial in every printer. This is as good as a Saturn 3 series printer, but not in any way noticeably better. There you go, done. But I know you guys want some more visual sex appeal, so in this video I've printed out a few models to show off its detail, but also because this is one of the few printers I've had where I start printing, and just because I'm so impressed with the machine, I want to keep printing with it. So today I've got a load of models from Loot Studios' latest sci-fi bundle, which I'll show more of throughout the video. I've got another awesome samurai from Titan Forge. I've got a giant rat titan from One Page Rules, and some penguins from Archvillain Games. Yeah, apparently I like penguins in war games now. And if you're wondering what the hell I even mean by that, well, allow me a moment to bring you a small sponsored segment. Don't skip it, it's about 3D printable models, because I'm determined to bring you relevant sponsors rather than waste 30 seconds of your time. What if you could use any of your favourite miniatures to play together with official rules? Well, dream no more. Archvillain Games and Titan Forge have allied with One Page Rules to bring you a full rule set for their ranges of amazing models, compatible with Grimdark Future and Age of Fantasy game systems. These guys are working together to build the future of wargaming, letting players use any models they like with open and free rules for fun, easy to learn, fast to play gaming experiences. The upcoming Worlds Beyond campaign is designed to offer anyone an opportunity to discover new creators and get into wargaming at an affordable cost. And I even got to be there at the birth of this and feature in some of their promo content, so it's worth checking out just to watch me make a tit of myself by being a typical British guy. But the point I was making is they've worked together to create the best possible armies from Titan Forge and Archvillain Games' existing catalogue, and they've put together some of their existing models to create bundles that didn't previously exist. Now I'll put a mix of normal and affiliate links to this campaign and all of these models in the video description, so if you're looking for cool models to print or a fun wargame to play without model restrictions that you may be used to, I recommend you check them all out, even if it's just to watch me make a bit of a tit of myself. When it comes to slicing, Elegoo seem to have ditched whatever agreement or partnership they had in the last generation with Voxel Dance Tango. This machine comes with Chitu Box Basic bundled on the USB drive. This makes sense because Chitu Box now has a whole network module which lets you remotely connect to your compatible printers so you can send files, view the camera remotely, see printing status and progress, or download time lapses. This is also the reason I haven't whinged that the USB port is on the back side of the machine, because I don't use it, I send everything remotely. But this is still Chitu Box we're talking about, so expect some level of jankiness at times, like having to restart your printer and PC when the time-lapse will not download for some random reason. And when sending a file to the printer remotely, make sure you've got enough space before you click send, otherwise it just will not work unless you fully slice and save the model again. But for the most part, this works, and when you slice your file, just send it to the printer's 6.3 GB of internal storage and start the print remotely. And you've got less worries to have if you've accidentally left something on the plate, because if the printer detects any obstructions, it'll just pause the job. However, there's no notification of this coming your way, not via the Chitu Box app unless you manually check it, and there's no Elegoo phone app, which I think it's about time that we had. Now then, this tilting mechanism. As I said, not a gimmick, not at all. By angling the release film away from the model as it releases each layer, the pull force is significantly reduced, meaning faster releases, fewer fails, and the possibility of thinner support contact points. And yes, it works incredibly well. This is not only the biggest advancement on this machine, it could possibly be the biggest advancement of this whole printing generation. Even with this high detail resin, which I would expect to fail easier than tougher, less detailed resins, I'm using this printer in fast mode and I've not had a single print issue from the machine. Not one. And considering we're using crystal clear PFA rather than ACF, there's no reduction in print quality either. Now, as many people pointed out when they first saw photos of this machine, the gap around the LCD is a potential issue because you could drip resin in there and destroy the mechanics. Well, first of all, like I said, it comes with a bib, but because I'm lazy, I still caused myself an issue which led to resin dripping inside the machine. You see, when you start a print, one of the intelligent AI features told me that there's not enough resin, so I tried to pour more in via the spout on the corner, and yeah, it dripped right down inside the printer. But every problem's an opportunity, and this gave me a chance to open it up and show off a couple of things. One is that disassembly to get access to these parts was no more than 4 hex screws on the top and 4 from the bottom. Once inside, we can get a good look at this tilting mechanism and how it works. And also, and thankfully, there's actually a recessed lip around the whole inside of the screen. So if you do get the odd small drop down this gap, it looks like it's not going to be the biggest issue in the world. This is a nice design choice, Elegoo. But still guys, just don't do this. And if you do by accident, you still want to clean it. But the best part, and I mean the best part, of this whole mechanism existing is that it's all controlled by the printer, not the slicer or the G-code. The printer has 2 modes, fast mode and slow mode. In fast mode, it takes about 2 seconds for the vat to tilt down and return back to position. You can see it happening here in real time. On all equivalent printers without this tilt mechanism, it's more like 6 or 7 seconds between layers. And that's undeniable. This printer is at least 3 times faster than others, and again, with no quality reduction. But as I was saying, the best part is that because this printer controls the speed, all of your typical slicer settings controlling lift speeds and retract speeds, they're all gone. These are some of the more complicated settings you need to deal with in 3D printers, so having them gone makes this machine significantly easier for users to operate. So can you understand now why I'm saying this is genuinely one of the most impressive advancements I've seen in consumer 3D printing technology? And finally, the AI camera, is that good? Nah, it's a bit shit, mate. Now, I can only guess that the AI failure detection from this camera does operate. You see, whilst I've not had an actual failure for it to detect, it did detect an obstruction when I tried to put a light inside the printer because the light fell overnight obstructing the camera, so the print detected that and paused. But let's say you have an actual failure, but it's on the opposite corner of the plate from where the camera is. It's blocked by all the other models, so how would the camera possibly detect it? If you know, please tell me, but I don't think it can. How can it even see past the first row of models? I honestly just don't see a huge value in this level of camera-based AI detection on resin printers in this tight space. On FDM, where you can see the full build area, sure, but not here. What I do care about though, and maybe this is just me because I do videos, is sexy time lapses of my prints. But let's be honest, they are satisfying to watch, but without a light, they just look crap. Now, as one of my Facebook followers, Simon Roberts, pointed out, the FAQ for this printer shows Elegoo giving the reason for not including a light, and they recommend users don't install their own because it could mess up how the AI functions work. So why then do Elegoo advertise time-lapse photography on their website with a very well-lit photograph? That is a little bit cheeky, Elegoo, and I'm sure some customers will have stronger words to say about it. So anyway, I figured screw it, and I MacGyvered in an Amran MC light using double-sided tape and Velcro and then just wedged the power cable in through the top of the lid. Other than the light falling off after the first attempt, I had no issues with the print, the resin, and my time-lapse came out great. Personally, I'd much rather have the pretty time-lapse feature over the partially functional AI feature any day. But what would you rather have? Make your opinions heard by adding the comment below. I'm sure Elegoo will see it, and I hope they'll take it on board for future printers. So here we are at the conclusion, and you're probably wondering, should you buy this printer? Well, if you're looking for a new printer and your budget's around $500 or less, this is a no-brainer. Whilst there's no improvement in print quality over last gen's 12K printers, the speed this offers makes it better than any unheated printer that's come before it. And if you're running a print farm and you're not using these, then your competitors that are can churn out models 3 times faster than you. Put it this way, now that this exists, if all future printers don't adopt this tilting release mechanism, they'll have a hard job competing with the ones that do. But yes, I am still disappointed. Of course I am, it's me, innit? Like, I'm British, I'm gonna have a whinge about something even when it's great. But yeah, I am disappointed in this printer, and I don't mean the slightly droppable build plate or the lack of a light for time lapses. But the lack of a heated vat in this machine is a huge missed opportunity. I know they've got an optional heater coming, and I'm going to cover that in a future video when I get one, along with a video for the normal Saturn 4, a comparison of the two, a comparison of these versus their direct competitors, so subscribe to the channel and don't miss them. But if this had a heated vat, okay, and a light for time lapses, even if this machine cost $150 or $200 more, I'd be here telling you that this is the perfect modern printer. And instead, I can only say it's amazing. Again, if you're going to buy one, please use our affiliate link in the description and check out the creators whose models I've used in the video too. They all have thousands of creations, from miniatures to much larger sculpts and busts. You'll be hard pressed not to find something you like from one of them. I want to thank you for watching and say thanks to our members who are on screen now. You can join them by signing up to our channel and get early access to all of our videos when we're not under NDA. Until next time, negative. I am a meat popsicle. Fohammer out.